Good afternoon, everybody. This afternoon's evidence will be transmitted via the live link, but only after 15 minutes have elapsed. Those with mobile telephones may use them to report what they hear in the hearing room, but only after 15 minutes have elapsed since the event that they're reporting. They may not be used for recording or photography.
Mr. Walton, thank you for coming back this afternoon to conclude your evidence. I'd like to move forward in time to your 2004 review of SDS record keeping. So this is a number of years on from your work on the Stephen Lawrence Review team and CO24, and by this stage of your career, you are now a Detective Chief Inspector. Does that sound right to you?
That's correct.
In your witness statement, you explained that between September 2003 and May or June 2004, you were reading for a master's degree in international relationships at the LSE. That was a full-time course of study on a Bramshill scholarship funded by the MPS.
That's correct.
As a rule of thumb, were you required to undertake any policing duties during that year, or was your time able to be broadly devoted to your studies?
No policing, entirely studies, yes.
Before commencing your studies, you'd been a DCI on Operation Sapphire, the Metropolitan Police Service's operation to address rape and sexual assault. Upon your return to the MPS, you returned to Special Branch as DCI. While you were on your study leave, did you remain attached, even if not available to duty, to either Op Sapphire or Special Branch?
Neither, actually, no.
If we could bring up MPS 0526836, sir, this is B46 in your bundle. Page 2, please. Thank you very much. On the 6th of February 2004, you're sent a memo by Detective Superintendent Andy Rintoul. We can see in the header of this document that it's dated 6th of February 2004 and is sent from Andy Rintoul of S Squad. It's sent to you and is copied to HN36 DCI Dell, then the DCI in charge of the SDS, and also to the Op Magma file. We touched on it yesterday, but Operation Magma was the operation to manage effectively the fallout from the Officer A and B litigation, which was brought by HN183 Peter Francis and another officer. Do you recall that?
I do recall that, but I didn't know the Magma Gold Group was meeting. I didn't actually know what Magma was. It was never articulated to me.
So I take it at the time, when did you learn really what Op Magma was about?
After the Ellison review.
So I take it at this stage you weren't aware that Mr. Francis and Officer B included claims for psychiatric injury caused by their service of the SDS?
That's correct, yeah.
Similarly, you would have been unaware that the claim involved allegations of misconduct by the UCOs, including misconduct admitted by the claimants themselves in their evidence?
That's correct, so yes.
And you presumably wouldn't have known anything further about that litigation?
Absolutely nothing, sir, no.
If we could look at the body of the memo, we can see effectively your terms of reference for a review. You are asked to undertake a review by Commander Williams, following discussions with Commander Williams in relation to a review of existing arrangements of the record-keeping system employed within Special Branch. The following terms of reference have been approved: to review the processes by which records are maintained and reviewed within SDS, to include local policy and procedures, particularly in relation to staff welfare, the mechanism for tasking field officers in relation to the MPSB intelligence requirement, submission and handling of intelligence from field officers, and compliance with REPA. This should include a review of existing systems, e.g. paper or IT-based filing and aspects of local security. Your mechanisms for handling finance and resources are outside the scope of this review. Your report with recommendations should be submitted by the 31st of March 2004. So this was a task which was set for you whilst you were effectively at university. Does that...
no, I'd returned to Special... Sorry if I misled you. I'd returned to Special Branch at this time. I was head of strategy. So I just arrived back. I had a full-time role. The degree was finished.
So I think the dates we have from your statement, we just double check, but I think it was from September 2003 to May or June 2004.
Yeah.
But in February 2004, you seem to be tasked to do this work
Then I've got the dates wrong.
for
Sorry.
your degree.
Yes, I would, because I was definitely back in special branch for this. I was in post. So apologies if I've got that wrong in the statement.
You say in your statement you weren't told why the review was being commissioned, but you now know it was to do with Operation Magma.
Yes.
Would the reference on the memo header that we just looked at not have made you aware of the connection to Operation Magma at the time of commission?
No, that didn't resonate with me at all. I only recently saw that CC of Magma. I was surprised to see that on the memo, because I know I knew nothing about Magma.
But this is the memo that you would, or a copy of the memo that you would have received with your tasking.
I'm not sure. These exact words I did receive from Andy Rintle, exactly as it's laid out. Whether it was on a memo, it was the hand version of it, I don't know. But I'm certain I knew nothing about Magma.
So you may have seen this.
I may
exact
have
document
done, and just not
not
registered.
understood
Yeah, not
what
understood what Magma was. Yeah.
But in any event, it appears that you are right in your statement that it was connected to Operation Magma. So if we could just have a look, please, at MPS 0749706. So this is document at B41. And at page 1, Operation Magma, second Gold Group meeting, 2001-2004. There's a number of attendees listed, headed by Commander Williams, but you are not one of those. And just for absolute completeness, you weren't part of the Op Magma Gold Group, were you?
I wasn't, no.
If we could turn to page 3 and item 4, please. We see risk assessments, the third bullet in that section, please. The meeting agreed there is a need to ensure the current tasking processes for SDS deployments are defensible and lawful, and record keeping is fit for purpose. And then if we could go over leaf to page 4, please. And item 9, we can see the action there, a review of current record keeping within SDS to be arranged, action, Detective Superintendent Rintle. Did you ever see these minutes before or during your work on the review?
No.
We've looked at the memo commissioning your review and setting out your terms of reference, but do I take it that this effectively is the minute which would have commissioned that review?
It certainly looks like that, yeah.
Whilst we are on this document, could we look, please, page 3, item 4, first bullet point, please? The meeting considered the summary sheet circulated following discussion of the potential impacts on the wider MPS of the deployments of Morris and HN183. These two officers regarded as critical. Briefing reports are required to assess the MPS vulnerability. There is also a need to ensure former SDS officers are not being exposed unnecessarily to the possibility of compromise. Now, HN183 was the officer that you met on the 14th of August 1998. Were you aware that at the time that you undertook the review that Mr. Morris and HN183 had a vulnerability?
No.
Now you know that your report had something to do with the Magma Gold Group. Does this minute add any colour to the purpose of your commission for the report?
I'm not really sure I can comment. I mean, not being in the room, not being part of the Gold Group, I can't comment on that.
It hasn't jogged your memory as to any conversation that might have happened around why you were doing the work?
No, none whatsoever. I was quite surprised to discover as recently as 2014 that my work on the review of 2004 was linked to this. But I mean, in terms of just a bit of context, I mean, in terms of goal groups, as I'm sure you're aware, and I'm sure former Commander Williams can elaborate on this next week, but if you're not part of the goal group, then there's obviously disclosure is kept within the goal group.
Were you aware, whilst conducting your review, that it was a highly secret unit that was not usually subject to review by an outsider?
Yes.
How was that communicated to you?
Well, because obviously my connections in my former roles, C Squad in 1990, and subsequent events. But yes, it's well known within Special Branch that STS was a secret operation in terms of classification.
Do you know why you were selected to undertake this review?
No, I don't. But obviously, Andy Rintle was Commander Williams's Chief of Staff. I just started as the Head of Strategy, so...
If it assists, Commander Williams in her statement, which is MPS 0749778, at paragraph 53, page 24 of that document. We don't need to show it, I shall read it, but if it is to hand, that would be lovely. Because it says that you were selected because he had a crime background and had also been in SB for a couple of brief periods. I wanted someone who the SDS staff would trust, but also had a broader perspective of how SB, and the SDS in particular, fitted within the wider MPS intelligence structures. Now, when you were asked about this by Mr. Ellison in your first interview, you say, in 2004, which is a lot further down the track, but when I was back in Special Branch as a Detective Chief Inspector, the commander then was Janet Williams, and she commissioned me to do a little bit of niche work because she was aware that I knew about SDS, to review their processes and systems, which I did over the course of a week, and this was the report that emanated from that. How did Commander Williams know of your knowledge of the SDS?
She also had a background in Special Branch, I think.
Did she know of your meeting with HN183?
I don't know, actually, that.
Was your meeting with HN183 widely known about by 2004?
Again, I don't know.
So people weren't coming up to you saying around that stage, well, I had heard that you had met.
I have heard subsequently that part of the Magma Gold Group did look at the meeting N81. I think, and Julian McKinney might be next week might be able to confirm this, that the file note that we addressed yesterday, sir, I think that Magma may have looked at that.
Yes, but were you aware of anybody coming to speak to you now having an awareness of that meeting in 2004?
No, I don't think so.
Did you make it known to Detective Superintendent Rintoul or Commander Williams when you were selected for this role that you had met a deployed SDS officer in 1998 in the circumstances in which that occurred?
No.
Do you think that you ought to have done?
No, not really. Not necessarily.
If we turn to your methodology for the report, at the time, did you receive any briefing about your task other than being sent those terms of reference we looked at a few minutes ago?
No. It was a very fleeting conversation with Andy Rintle. I don't know if I spoke to Janet Williams about it. I'm not sure I did. It was a very confined terms of reference, and there wasn't really any backdrop to it. I wasn't told, really. I didn't know nothing about Magma, and I didn't know it had come from the Magna Gold Group.
So when you spoke to Mr. Rintle, there was nothing further than effectively the four corners of the memo that we've seen?
That's correct.
Did you ask him for any further background or any steer on what they would like?
No. I mean, the terms of reference are quite precise, and quite contained, and so I got on and did it. You see the deadline on there. There's a turnaround. They wanted a quick turnaround. I don't think it was explained to me why that was the case, but it was one of the first things I'd done when I came back as head of strategy.
Were you aware, either before your review or through information revealed during the review, of James Thompson's misconduct and the investigation into his deployment, including suspicions about his sexual relationships?
No.
The specific allegations in A and B's witness statements that Peter Francis, Mike Chitty and Trevor Morris had engaged in sexual relationships, and that John Dines had engaged in a sexual relationship with Helen Steel?
No.
Were you told about the attempts made to contact Mark Jenner by and on behalf of Alison?
No.
The attempts made by Rosa to contact Jim Boyling?
No.
Or the reasons for the SDS office needing to move premises in mid-2002?
No.
Were you aware at the time or later why those issues were not part of your review into SDS policies as they stood?
No.
Do you think that would have been material knowledge that would have assisted you in your review?
I think that's a question for Janet Williams, really. I'm not sure I can answer that because I was not present in the Gold Group, and again, I'm speculating, but if they wanted an independent review done of processes of files, etc., then I was sufficiently independent.
A number of those points that I've covered on the list, and also the fact that Mr. Francis and Officer B suffered psychiatric injury, go to welfare, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And that was a specific task that you were that's a specific area you were asked to examine.
Yes, it was.
So again, would that not surely that would have assisted your review to understand that pertinent background?
Well, obviously, welfare issues came out in the review. I spoke to the UCs, and obviously my findings are recorded as recommendations, etc., and my comments. That's really a decision for the Gold Group, not me.
Can we bring up, please, MPS 0736907? That's B49 in the bundle. So this is your completed review.
Yeah.
If we could scroll down to page 4, please, looking at paragraphs 3 and 4. So just below where you set out the terms of reference, you set out your methodology. So we can see you spent 5 days examining SDS records, spoke to DCI Dell, DI HN183, DS Beals and Gilbertson, Richard Shaw, and the current field officers. How much time did you spend with the UCOs?
A matter of hours, I think. Certainly only on one day, and maybe 2 hours.
And was that all together or individually?
I think they were all together, most of them 7, maybe 8.
When you spoke to the UCOs, knowing that you needed to speak about, you need to understand welfare, did you feel that dealing with them all together was the best way to understand their welfare concerns?
Yes.
Do you feel that they would have been completely confident to have spoken in front of their colleagues if they were struggling with mental health issues?
I suppose with hindsight I could have spoken to them individually. They seemed very happy to articulate their concerns to me as a group. They're used to being in as a group, and obviously that was one of the meetings where they all come in and talk to the supervisors and the managers in the office. So I wasn't really given an opportunity to speak to them individually. I suppose I could have done, yeah.
Did they speak to you about concerns they had surrounding mental ill health?
Yes.
Do you recall specifically what those comments were?
As my best I can recollect, so I think most of the concerns were about what happened to them after they'd come back from their assignment. back into the police service, which is what I highlighted in the comments and
Yes,
the recommendations.
we'll come on to that in a minute.
Yeah.
And aside from concerns perhaps for future mental ill health when they return to a more normal pattern of life and policing,
Yeah.
did anybody express concerns about current mental ill health?
Not that I can recall. I don't think they did, actually.
How much time did you spend with the managers?
I spent quite a lot of time with Mike Dell over the course of the week, most of my time with him. And he provided the access and the commentary and quite a lot of discussions with him.
In paragraph 3, you refer to speaking to the SDS staff rather than interviewing them, which is the term that you use in the paragraph when you speak to officers outside the unit.
Yes.
Did you interview them, or were your interactions with the SDS staff more casual?
What, the two I spoke to who weren't?
I suppose I'm trying to draw the distinction between the fact that you use the terms speaking in relation to SDS, which might be taken to suggest a more informal approach, and interviewing when speaking to the 4 officers within Special Branch,
Yes.
which might suggest a more formal approach.
Probably more thorough with those that had left, and individually, I think I spoke to them. So those that were serving were seen as a group, and the others who had served, pretty sure I spoke to them each individually. So that's probably why there's that distinction.
Sorry, when we're looking at the item at 4,
Yeah.
that seems to be undertaken with 1 detective chief superintendent, 3 squad superintendents, SCE, and the head of SO12 source unit.
Yes.
Those are distinct, are they not, from the then 3 former SDS field officers and an SCD-10 manager?
Yes.
So there are...
Each of those detective chief superintendents I spoke to, the 1 detective chief superintendent I spoke to individually, each of the 3 superintendents individually, not collectively, head of the source unit individually, and the 3 former SDS field officers, I think I spoke to them individually, not collectively.
Why were the external interviewees necessary?
Because that was one of the key issues that had been raised by the serving UCs. That was the key issue, I think, to come out of the meeting, with the discussion with them. Their concern and anxiety around what would happen next when they were finished on their assignment.
And those senior officers within SC and E squads? What was the purpose of interviewing them?
It's because I think, S squad obviously oversaw SDS work. C squad was the recipient of the product from SDS. And with regards to E squad, obviously the threat in London was changing very fast at that time, and the Islamist threat was emerging. So it was a question of should SDS tasking be different to what it was.
So effectively, just as how that evidence may feed into wider Special Branch.
Yes.
Other than, I've asked you about the welfare topics that you may have discussed with the UCOs. Do you remember what other topics you discussed with them during your time?
I don't, actually. The main issue they were concerned about is they were in touch with some of the ex field officers who previously worked undercover, and they were mostly concerned about that, how they'd got on since they'd left.
Yep.
That was one of the key issues, if not the key issue.
At paragraph 56 of this report at page 13, thank you very much. There's a comment. SDS field officers are all Special Branch detectives who understand the rule of law as well as SO12 requirements and restrictions. What evidence was your conclusion there based upon?
It's a fact. They're all police officers. So they're all trained police officers. They've all been trained. They've been through all of the, before they joined the special branch, they've been constables. They know the rule of law.
So but there was no specific interrogation of their understanding of their duties and under the rule of the law?
No, I think I'm just making the point that they are different from, if you like, tasked agents. They are distinctly different from informants that work for the police on in different guises.
So effectively, you didn't assess them against any metric as to their understanding, save for the fact that you knew that they had qualified as police officers.
Yes, I think it's a pretty high bar. They're trained.
Paragraph 8 of your report, you record that all historical files had been subject to a comprehensive reorganisation 18 months ago, and that...
Sorry, could we get this one up?
Yes, of course.
Paragraph...
That'll be back to page 5, I think. Sorry, I don't have the page number on my note. Apologies. 5, please.
Okay. Sorry.
The SDS premises stores all historical files that go back to the start of the operation 35 years ago. Files kept within secure safes. All historical files were subject to a comprehensive reorganisation 18 months ago that retained files on the basis of 2 criteria: 1, current operational need, and 2, post-operational support for recently retired field officers and any previous eras and any from previous eras where a special need was identified. What were you told about the need? What were you told was the reason for organising and presumably removing historical files in around mid-2002?
I don't think I was told anything around that. What I've recorded there is what I was told. And I can't really expand any further on that.
Was it connected to a move in premises?
I can't remember, sorry.
If we could bring up your witness statement, please. UCPI 37511, page 47, please. Paragraphs 111, 112. Yes, starting at the second line. The scope of the review was to examine the SDS's recording systems, policy and procedures, staff welfare, tasking, submission and handling of intelligence, and compliance with the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000, REPA. It was a fairly focused report. For instance, I did not see any intelligence, and I conducted the review over a few days. I spent 5 days in early 2004 examining SDS record systems and speaking to the then head of SDS, DCI Mike Dell, his staff and current field officers in a group session, being the SDS officers who were themselves detectives. I was given unfettered access to all records, whether on paper or computer-based systems. Is it really right that you were given unfettered access to all the records at the SDS?
When I'm referring to that, it's to sort of make the point that Mike Dell was very, very cooperative. If I wanted something, he was very helpful. We had lots of discussions. Obviously, he guided me on what I should see and what I shouldn't see. And obviously, my remit didn't include looking at any of the intelligence. It was around processes and systems.
Sorry, could you just say that again? I didn't hear you. It may be that the transcripts did.
The point I'm making is that Mike Dell there was no sort of opposition to me being there, and they were helpful. Mike Dell was, very responsive, and if I wanted to see something, I could. He wasn't stopping me see anything.
You said he helps you with what you should see and what you shouldn't see. What was it that you shouldn't see?
Well, I didn't look at any of the intelligence because that wasn't part of the remit. I mean, that comes back to the remit.
Can we drill into that, please?
Yeah.
Why was the intelligence not part of the remit?
Because well, if you go back to the remit, it doesn't include intelligence. If you want me to get the remit up, would you?
Well, I think we might need to understand that nuance. You're looking at policy and procedures. You're looking at record keeping. Surely intelligence would need to be filed and recorded.
No, it's about how the policies and procedures were reviewed and kept. I didn't need to look at the intelligence.
But did you not need to understand whether the policies that were in place were being implemented properly, which must surely have involved seeing some intelligence?
No, because we were talking about how how intelligence was transferred from STS to to Scotland Yard. If I'd started to look at the intelligence, I'd have been there for weeks and weeks and weeks. But that was not part of the remit at all. It was about systems processes.
I see. So if we go back to your report, perhaps page 5, paragraph 7, that's MPS 0736907. And at paragraph 7, we can see the treatment of intelligence reports.
Yeah.
Where it talks about being couriered to New Scotland Yard daily. So you're talking about effectively the flow of intelligence.
Yes.
But you didn't examine the physical reports themselves.
No.
And then again, perhaps whilst we have the document up, if we go to page 9, paragraph 27. Again, you write about the process of producing intelligence reports.
Yes.
But again, you didn't see this happening.
I didn't need to see it.
How did you know it was actually happening?
Mike Dell would explain it to me, or any of the officers in the team. Yeah.
You didn't feel the need to independently verify that the policies that are that you're being told are implemented are in fact being implemented?
That wasn't part of the remit.
So just to believe what Mike Dell says is happening, is that was sufficient for your terms of reference?
Well, yes, I was quite satisfied I could meet the terms of reference in this way. As I said, if I'd had to go through, there was no reason for me to look at the intelligence in order to meet the needs of this confined, review.
Do you accept the premise of my point that you don't appear to be forensically establishing that policies that are said to be in place are in fact being followed?
I don't think the remit includes implementation of the policies. If we look at it.
But what is the point of a policy if it is not implemented?
Yes, but that was not my purpose to conduct the remit.
So I take it that
that's
you
a
were
much bigger question to look at implement it as a much bigger review, which obviously followed my review around. That was the Crane review, if you like.
But ultimately you were satisfied that without considering the intelligence reports themselves, that you could come to a conclusion about the submission and handling of intelligence?
Yes, in accordance with the precise remit, absolutely, yes.
Moving to REPA, if we could go to page 9 of the report, please, paragraphs 31 and 32. The REPA authorities and renewals from SDS were inspected as part of a wider SO2 inspection and conducted by the Surveillance Commissioners in June 2003. Some adverse comment was made in that report, but none applied to written documentation emanating from the SDS. 32. With the exception of a few minor errors, the authorities were found to be well researched and consistent with correct practice under REPA 2000. Now, you referred to an earlier inspection of REPA authorities and renewals during a Surveillance Commission's inspection. Did you conduct your own review, or did you rely on the conclusions of the 2003 audit to satisfy this part of your report?
No, I did look at the RIPA reviews, because that was part of the remit.
What was your approach to assessing the RIPA authorisations?
To see whether they met legal standards.
You say the authorities were found to be well researched and consistent with current practice. In what ways were you able to verify that the content of the authority was true and accurate?
Content, obviously, these are RIPA authorities assigned by a much more senior officer than me. It was more about did they meet the standards, as I understood it then, the legal standards of complying with RIPA. Because RIPA was relatively new then, and it was particularly new for SDS. And so that was why it was put into my remit. I wasn't a specialist on RIPA. But as best I could gauge, when I saw the authorities, they were compliant legally.
Given that it wasn't a particular area of your specialism for you, how confident were you that your assessment was accurate?
I'm pretty confident. I was trained in RIPA, as we all were when it came in 2000, 2001. But I hadn't. I'd been away, obviously, for a year or so, away from operational policing. So, but I was confident that I could make that judgment.
Did you look? You didn't look at the intelligence. Did you look at any other reporting or feedback in relation to particular deployments in order to ascertain whether it was would satisfy questions of proportionality and necessity?
That's a different issue. So when I'm talking about compliance with RIPA, I'm talking about literally the RIPA authorities. Were they met legally? In terms of the justification for a tasking, no, that wasn't what I looked at. In terms of the write-up around proportionality, legality, etc., no.
So you're making sure that the forms are being completed in a timely fashion?
Yes, legally.
That the information within those authority documents is of sufficient detail to allow an authorising officer to make their assessment. Is that what?
Yes, I was doing really what the surveillance commissioners would have done, but they would have gone. They would also look into proportionality and legality in a more thorough way. So I did not look at those aspects. So we're really looking at the legality of the actual forms themselves.
So effectively making sure that the paperwork's squared away, but not looking at the decision-making process that follows from that.
That's correct. Yeah.
Do you think it would have been sensible to have taken one with underlying intelligence and to have used that as a worked example?
I could have made that decision. I didn't feel it was necessary in terms of my remit or in terms of the time I had allocated, which wasn't very much. So it's,
Do you remember whether you reviewed all of the authorities that were current at the time, or did you review a sample?
I think I reviewed them all, yeah.
While on the topic of RIPA, please can we scroll back a few pages to page 5, please, paragraph 7 and the second bullet point. We looked at this a minute ago in terms of intelligence reports moving away, but the second bullet point talks about RIPA. Authorizations for Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act, RIPA 2000 authorities, and documentation relating to specific operations that is seen by Superintendent S, Commander SO12, or occasionally the Assistant Commander of Specialist Operations, AXO. These are written within the SDS premises, couriered by hand to NSY for reading, minuting, and signature, then couriered back to the SDS office by hand for indexing and storage within the office. On what basis were you able to conclude that RIPA authorizations and documentation relating to specific operations was seen by Superintendent S, Commander SO12, or occasionally AXO?
Because they were minuted accordingly.
Were you provided with any explanation as to when AXO would have had cause to view the authorizations?
No.
Did you ask?
I can't say, sorry.
Did that strike you as unusual, that the authorizations would go to AXO?
No. I'm obviously Commander Pierce has given an extensive statement on these matters, and involvement of AXO was more unusual.
Turning to welfare provision on page 10, please. Paragraph 39. The new health and safety measures in place for field officers appear to be working well, but this opinion is based on anecdotal evidence from SDS managers and the psychiatrists concerned and is not supported by an adequate research base. Given you'd spoken to the UCOs, why didn't you incorporate the UCO's view on sufficiency of the new measures in your report?
I think that is reference to their concerns. So I think the inquiry...
Sorry, what you've written here, and again, tell me if I've misunderstood this.
Yeah.
This opinion is based on anecdotal evidence from SDS managers and the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So those are the two groups of individuals who've provided you with the information that the new policy is working well, not the UCOs.
That's correct. And I'm saying that that was my concern, was that I was hearing from that meeting with the UCOs, they were very concerned about welfare issues. When I spoke to the SDS managers and I think NH53, I'm not sure if I spoke to him or Mike Dell about this, but obviously they were saying to me, well, we've put in this new policy around welfare, and I put this in, particularly this line, not supported by adequate research base, because I wanted to make sure there wasn't any complacency around this, because it was the one issue or the main issue that the UCOs had raised. It's not saying I didn't trust the managers, but I felt like there needs to be a research base to demonstrate that this new policy was working well.
Did Mike Dell tell you why the newer policy had been introduced?
I think Mike Dell told me that there had been issues. I'm not sure the extent to which we discussed that. We did discuss concerns around that because he was present, I think, when the UCOs raised their concerns.
Did he say anything about it relating to the Officer A and B litigation?
No, he didn't. Again, I didn't know anything about that.
Well, now you know a bit about that litigation.
Yeah.
Did anything he say you now realise must have alluded to Officer A and B litigation?
It's possible.
Can you recall what that might have been?
No, I'd be speculating.
At paragraph 40, you write, support for ex-field officers who retired, in single inverted commas, before the introduction of the new health and safety policy in 2000 is, however, limited. So you spoke to 3 former UCOs. Did you ask them how well they were supported both during and post-deployment?
Yes.
And what was their answers?
Well, I think that's recorded here in my comments and my recommendations around this. They were very concerned about being posted back to Scotland Yard or other obvious police premises. They wanted reassurances around their operational security post-deployment. They weren't convinced that that was sufficient. They felt that if you like, the new era of leaders within Special Branch did not appreciate the kind of stresses and strains that they'd been under. So, and this is another kind of, if you like, another concern, which is why welfare sort of features in this review quite a lot.
So the concerns that the former field officers are articulating to you are in relation to their physical well-being?
Yes.
In relation to the well-being of their careers?
Yes.
But do you recall them mentioning their psychological well-being?
Yes.
Did they give any indication what support they would have liked?
I can't remember how the new policy was impacting former officers. As best I can recall, so it did include the policy did include offering psychiatric support to former officers, but it was in its infancy.
Could we go forward, I think, another page to paragraph 44? You speak about... Oh, sorry, one more page, please. Risk assessment. You note the only risk assessments of operational risks were either as part of REPA application process or in the case of a critical incident involving a field officer, the example cited being a potential compromise. Paragraph 46, you write, however, balanced against this risk are significant control measures, including professional tradecraft that has evolved over 35 years, that is both thorough and comprehensive. Whilst there have been many potential compromises, only a handful have materialised and no serious harm resulted in any of these cases. What did you understand the professional tradecraft to have comprised in general terms here?
Really, that's what I was told was that experience within the office, that former undercover officers were in the office themselves, although I think Mike Dell was not one of them. But expertise was handed down, as it were.
What documentation did you review in order to come to that conclusion, or was that merely was that simply based on the anecdotal evidence?
That's anecdotal evidence. There was one, if you were able to get the little bullet points up of the policies.
If we
unless you want to go
zoom out, please. Is that overleaf, I think? Sorry. Is that what you mean on the previous page? So I'm not sure exactly what you're referring
sorry,
to.
it's the bullet point list of policies, which is, I'm not sure what page it's on, sorry. It's probably the one back from that.
Is that your recommendations? Is that the list of your recommendations?
No, sorry, it's in the earliest pages of this document, I think. It isn't quite important to get it out if it's okay with you. Right, operation review. No, it's still not. Right, okay, so that's at page 5.
Page.
So
page 5. Oh yes, yes, I see.
Yeah.
So the foot of page 5 and over to page 6.
Yeah. So these are the paper files within SDS under the following headings. So these are basically policy files, and there was one on field craft and field officer training. Now,
yes, the fourth bullet down on page 6.
Yeah.
Did you review the SDS Tradecraft Manual?
No, and I can be categorical on this. So I never saw the Tradecraft Manual, and the first I have seen that document is 2 days ago. I can't speak for its status either. No idea what its status is.
You have now seen that.
Yeah.
If you had seen it at the time, would, in your view, would it have qualified as professional tradecraft advice?
No.
If we could go, please, to your conclusions, page 16 of this document, please. Thank you. And paragraph 64, please. You say, with regard to policy, SDS lacks formal policy clarifying its purpose and strategic objectives. The REPA 2000 provided legitimacy for the operation with the activities of each field officer subject to authorization and regular review. There is a need, however, to create SO12 policy to clarify the strategic aims, objectives of the SDS. The policy should also include clarification on complex aspects of the operation, such as the management of critical incidents, foreign travel, and risk assessments. Now, your conclusion that the SDS lacks formal policy, clarifying its purpose, strategic objectives, seems rather a fundamental organisational failure, doesn't it?
It does. They were the review, I remember thinking, this is very policy light. There is not enough policy, and obviously you've got to start with an overarching policy before you get down to the other policies.
You don't appear to have really laboured this particular point. It's not necessarily given a huge amount of prominence. Is that a fair reading?
No, because that features in a key recommendation.
Indeed, it does.
Yeah. My view was that there was no overarching policy for the role of STS per se at all, and that without that, it was very difficult to have, if you like, tactical operational policies beneath it if you didn't know what the overall purpose was.
At paragraph 71, final paragraph of this document, on page 17, thank you, you write, with respect to strategic oversight, the review recommends that SO12 senior management from all the main squads have a greater input into the strategic long-term oversight of SDS, and that consideration should be given to greater collaborative working between SDS and SO12 source unit. So given your broadly positive review, is this recommendation that SDS should have a shorter reign and there be greater oversight? Slightly surprising conclusion.
I'm not sure it was a broadly positive review.
Is that not how you view it?
No.
Had you been asked to recommend greater oversight?
No, I hadn't. This is a key point, I think, so if I might say, that I felt that the unit quite naturally is going to be, to a degree, isolated. But I felt that there was still some major strategic vulnerabilities around its isolation, even at that time. Even though I didn't know about the matters which have come to the fore since. I felt that whilst they had endorsed the new RIPA, that it was policy light, oversight was light, that it was focused almost exclusively on C squad matters and with the changing threat, and that there was a need to bring in other senior leadership within SO12 to make it more collaborative.
You were tasked on the 6th of February, and according to the minute sheet circulating your note, you sent the finalised report to Commander Williams on the 31st of March 2004, about 8 weeks later. Mm-hmm. Do you feel you had adequate time to investigate the matters within your terms of reference?
Within the terms of reference, yes, but they were very confined. Deliberately confined, actually.
Did you consider reporting back, perhaps earlier, saying, actually, you need a broader review here?
I can't remember that conversation. I did have a conversation with Andy Rintle suggesting that there was a need for further scrutiny. I was not aware that resulted in the Crane review at the time, because when the Crane review started, but I quickly moved on again.
That isn't one of your findings, is it, that it needed greater scrutiny of review?
No, but there's plenty of, in my findings, I was confident that if those recommendations had been implemented, that would have addressed most of the vulnerabilities, because we talk about tasking, coordination, strategic tasking, overall remit of the unit, etc., etc. The recommendations I put in there.
Were you satisfied you'd be given adequate resource for your review?
It's a very limited review. 5 days, me, and a lot of collaboration with Mike Dell, and obviously arranging those individual conversations and the group conversations with the UCOs. But for the terms of reference that I was given, and it's a limited review, I concede that, but so is the terms of reference.
You've mentioned DS Crane's review.
Yeah.
DS Crane undertook a further review of the SDS.
Yeah.
And during that review spent a 4-week period with the unit before producing a report, albeit with different terms of reference. Mm. And do you feel longer with the unit would have helped your review?
Not in time. I didn't need any more time to complete my terms of reference. If the terms of reference had been wider, then I would have obviously conducted a much longer review.
Could we show, please, MPS 05270008, so that's B48 in the bundle. And page 3, please. If we look at your summary comment, your covering minutes, overall the unit was found to be professionally run and well managed. There is a need, however, for some reform in certain critical areas, and this has been detailed in the review. The head of the SDS is supportive of the kind of changes proposed. Professionalism. What stood out to you about the professionalism of the SDS from your review?
Mike Dell is professionally run. I was impressed with Mike Dell. And he was the head of the unit at the time.
Well, that certainly would go to your point about well-managed and professionalism. Were there other examples of professionalism that you noticed?
There was no resistance to my review. If I'd had a wider remit, I could have done a bigger, deeper dive. I was satisfied that I'd uncovered the right things in terms of the remit. You'll note that I say there is need for some reform in certain critical areas. So I am flagging quite strongly, and I did this verbally, that more needs to be done.
You did it verbally. Did you make it more obvious that there were quite fundamental issues?
Well, I wasn't aware of the fundamental issues that have come to light since, because of obviously the limited nature of the remit.
So had you known then what you know now, would you still have found it professionally run and well managed?
Clearly not.
I'm staying with the same document. If we could go to page 3, please. And at the bottom of that page, please, the minute in manuscript. There's a manuscript minute from Commander Williams to Detective Superintendent Joe Connell. Please see comments on Richard's report. Please lead on changes required. Were you aware that your recommendations had essentially been approved by Commander Williams for action? Did you get any feedback on that?
I can't remember if I spoke to Janet Williams about it, but I was aware that because Joe O'Connell was Detective Superintendent S Squad, it was within his scope, it was his command. He was the commander of the unit. So, yes, he was leading on the changes.
But you had no involvement with any of the implementation?
No.
Could we turn, please?
I might have spoken to Joe Connell, actually. I can't totally recall, but I might have done.
Could we turn, please, to MPS 0527478? So this is B52. Page 23, please. Thank you very much. We can see here is a memorandum from DCI Dell to Detective Superintendents BC, E and S Squads dated 22nd of April 2004, titled Review of SDS March 2004. It attaches, if we go over leaf to page 24, a draft note setting out a written policy for SO12's agreement. Now, you're not copied into this correspondence. Were you aware that this document was being developed following your recommendations? You can see the recommendation at the top for formal policy, your recommendation 6.
I never saw this. This is 2004, April 2004. I don't recall seeing that. But I was aware, as I said, that Joe Connell was taking matters forward. It wasn't just left in the...
In your witness statement, you say that you were disappointed that some of these recommendations were not acted on in the immediate aftermath of the review, but have no recollection of what led you to that disappointment.
Yeah.
It's quite an unusual comment. Can you assist us what you mean
there? I'd made that comment to Mr. Ellison in my interview. I can't remember the foundation of that comment and what led to it. I can't be precise. I need to caveat my answer. But I think it was something that there was a little bit of resistance, and I can't say from whom, specifically to the coordination and tasking recommendation, not this recommendation. But I never saw if you like, the outcome of this. I never heard that the formal policy had been written. I didn't ever hear my recommendations had been fully implemented. But I did quite quickly move on, because in 2005 we had 7/7, and I was heavily involved in that from the off. So by 7/7 July 2005, I was away doing Irish terrorism. And
do you recall when it was that you found out that your recommendations hadn't been followed?
Well, I can't be specific that they weren't followed. There was just a bit. I think I had in the early days. There was a sense in which I wasn't convinced that it was, particularly the one around tasking and coordination. I wasn't convinced that was going to be welcomed, if you like, and implemented.
Sorry, I spoke over you there.
Sorry, no, and implemented, yeah. But I have to be very careful about that because it's, you're right to mention it. But I'm not sure the foundation upon which I made that comment.
As we've touched upon, DS Crane was tasked to undertake a further review of the SDS. Had a slightly longer time frame to do that report. Do you know why it was felt necessary to commission a further review of the SDS only 6 or 7 months after you completed your own review?
No, I don't.
Did you know of it at the time?
No, I didn't.
Following DS Crane completing his report, there was quite a significant backlash from SDS management. We don't need to go to it, but it's in your witness pack, so you may have read it.
Yeah.
Can you comment on how, as far as you are aware, your own review was received by the SDS?
As far as I'm aware, my own review was received by Mike Dell anyway, as fine, and he was aware that there were matters that needed addressing, and he agreed that with the recommendations. I agreed them with him. I'm not aware of how the Crane review. I'm making the presumption that that's also come out of the Magnum Gold Group.
But as it is, you don't yourself know.
No.
In what is described as a contextual paper authored by HN183 Frankie Flood, dated the 26th of January 2001, there was an interesting comment. If we could bring that up, please. NPCC 404644. So it's not in the bundle. And when that is there, if we could go to paragraph 6 on page 3, please. Thank you very much. Mr. Flood writes, the unit had been the subject of 2 previous reviews in recent years, the Walton Review and the Crane Review. These reviews would not have had access to the documents such as the Tradecraft Manual, which accords with your evidence today. The review documents have not been located, as IT difficulties have delayed the recovery. Mr. Walton recalls commenting upon the value and importance of the infiltrations conducted by the unit at that particular time. The Crane Review was conducted on a more process basis. This could highlight concerns on previous reviews conducted over the years that may not have been intrusive enough to identify the risks to the service and provided a false sense of management and deployments conducted by the unit. This may also indicate the internal systems and tradecraft of operatives within the team was only known to a small number of staff working within the unit. Do you have any comment on the suggestion that your review may not have been intrusive enough to identify risks to the service?
It clearly wasn't, but it only satisfied the remit, but the remit wasn't wide enough. Frankie Flood was the finest officer on undercover policing the Met had at this time. I'm sure Mr. McKinney will refer to him next week, but his views trumped all views in a way, and if he had these views, then they're right. And he's absolutely right about would not have had access to the documents as a Tradecraft Manual. If I had seen the Tradecraft Manual, things would have been very different.
And in terms of providing a false sense of security to managers, do you feel that that might have been an outcome from your report?
I don't think so, no.
I have one more topic, which I'll turn to now. I'd like to ask you about Peter Ward, the Gold Group, and TBS. These are matters which concern HN10, Bob Lambert, in particular the MPS response to the revelation that while deployed as a UCO, Mr. Lambert had a child known to this inquiry as TBS with a woman we are calling Jackie.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to ask you about Peter Ward. In 2011 and 2012, we understand that Mr. Ward was head of compliance and assurance in SO15. Is that?
That's correct. Outstanding officer, and at this time he was my most senior civilian and highly experienced in matters around these issues.
Mr. Ward explained that in that role, his immediate line managers were you and DCS Alan Mitchell. Does that?
That accords with my memory. I wasn't entirely sure that at that time. I started in June 2011 as head of counterterrorism. This is, I think, 4 months on. For a brief time, Alan Mitchell was one of my detective chief superintendents. I had 4 at that time, and he was one of them. And I think under Alan came the SDS, amongst other things.
Following Operation Hearn, Mr. Ward assisted DCS Mitchell, who had been given responsibility for the welfare of former SDS officers. And as part of that role, Mr. Ward would attend Gold Group relating to SDS issues, chaired by DAC Simmons.
Yes.
Do you recall those Gold Groups taking place?
Well, it's interesting you asked that. You've disclosed to me yesterday two Gold Groups, one which I chaired and one that I was participated in. My best recollection around that time was that these issues were emerging. I think the first Gold Group that I chaired was mainly because the former UCO was still in the command. He was in SO15 at the time.
But you do remember that particular, I suppose, stream of Gold Groups to do with SDS issues at that time.
Yes.
Do you remember Peter Ward attending those Gold Groups?
On my behalf, to Peter, he represented the command on all of those matters. Yeah.
And for Gold Groups where you did not attend, did Mr. Ward report back to you?
He normally did, but
in what format? Did he provide the minutes or did he provide a verbal debrief?
He would. Peter and I, he debriefed me weekly, usually. Regularly, I got briefed by Peter Ward across a range of HR issues. I mean, the command was 1,800 people maybe, and there were a lot of issues.
If we could show, please, NPCC 000 51555, please. NPCC 000 51555. Thank you very much. If we can look at the foot of that page, there's an email dated the 21st of October 2001 at 07:15, and this forwards a chain of correspondence between Bob Lambert and Rob Evans of the Guardian newspaper. If we scroll down this document to page 3, please, we can see an email from Mr. Evans setting out his research and seeking comment from Mr. Lambert. Among the matters set out in the 4th paragraph of this email is a reference to Mr. Lambert's relationship with Belinda Harvey. If we go up a page to page 2, please, we can see Mr. Lambert's response to Mr. Evans, admitting the relationship with Belinda Harvey and also mentioning he'd suffered a bereavement. If we could go back to the head of the document at page 1, please, we can see that at 1406, the correspondence was forwarded to you and another recipient from APCO TAM, and it's also sent on to Alan Mitchell at 1410. Do you recall receiving this correspondence?
No, I don't recall reading or knowing anything about this matter. I should just say that a CC to my office, I had an executive assistant and 2 staff officers in my back office. So going into my office does not necessarily mean I'll see it.
Do you think it likely, given the content of this email, that you would have seen it?
I didn't see it. I would have remembered this. So I haven't seen this. And I can't remember Peter Ward briefing me on this issue. I might have been elsewhere. Obviously, Alan Mitchell was my deputy. at the time. But as there were a number of issues at this time, you've disclosed those other two goal groups, which I do remember.
Well, we'll come to some.
I don't remember this at
furthers.
all. I don't.
Given that it wasn't sent to you on your evidence, is that because your staff officer would have thought you were cited on that issue already?
No, if Alan Mitchell's engaged and dealing, I would have expected Peter Ward to have briefed me at some stage on this. Although obviously,
did he?
I don't know, but I've got no memory of this matter at all. I should say that very quickly all of these issues around that were emerging at that time around the SDS, the many different issues, were very quickly being handled by a more comprehensive goal group, which was run by Mark Simmons and others.
Okay, well, let's look at another piece of correspondence, then we may get to goal group minutes in a few minutes' time. Mr. Lambert sent a further email to Mr. Ward on the 24th of October 2011. That's NPCC 30515551. If we could show that, please. So again, unfortunately, this isn't in Mr. Walton's bundle, but he has had sight of it. So this time, the email chain at pages 2 and 3. Significantly, Mr. Evans refers to a boy, TBS, who Mr. Lambert accepts is his son, not naming the boy's mother. At page 2, Mr. Lambert mentions there's a risk that TBS may have the same hereditary heart condition responsible for the death of Mr. Lambert's son and daughter. Now back to page 1, we see that this email was sent to Mr. Ward and Frankie Flard at 0827. Mr. Ward then advises Mr. Lambert, copying in DSU Mitchell at 0955. You're not copied into any of this correspondence. Were you made aware of the contents of this email?
I was shown this yesterday, and I have no recollection about this matter whatsoever. It's possible that I was briefed about it by Peter Ward, but I don't remember. And it seems extraordinary that if I was briefed, I wouldn't remember it because it's so significant.
You anticipate my next question, yes. So, what is if you had been briefed, you suspect you would remember it?
Yes, these are very serious matters.
What's your reaction that Alan Mitchell and Peter Ward may have been keeping information from you as commander?
I'm sure they wouldn't have been. This was discussed obviously at the goal group. I think in attending that goal group was my assistant commissioner Cressida Dick at the time, and it was, I think, run by her, and then later that goal group was run by Mark Simmons, head of professional standards for the Met.
Yes.
So it very quickly escalated right up. But I have no recollection of this matter whatsoever.
And so you had no sight of it, so you were unable to take any action?
Well, there wouldn't be any need for me to take action if it was already under the goal group, yeah.
Later, on the 24th of October, Mr. Ward also forwards Mr. Lambert's email to Mr. Simmons and another of other recipients. If we turn to... hang on. Sorry, I think I need to just put up one more document on this. The document I hope to be able to bring in front of you forwards Mr. Lambert's email to Mr. Simmons and some other recipients. And Mr. McKinney, in his email, raises the question of whether the MPS owes an Osmond duty to TBS. Do you recall what happened in relation to the possible Osmond obligation identified by Mr. McKinney?
I've got no recollection of ever being briefed on this.
If we could turn to the Gold Group minutes, please. MPS 0749-743. And yeah, so that's page 1. So that is the first page of the Gold Group SDS issues. List of attendees. Mr. Ward is present, but you are not. If we could turn, please, to page 4 of that document.
Could I just mention one thing on that, please? Obviously, DCS John Prunty was also one of my other deputies. He's a chief superintendent.
Page 4, please. And we can see that Mr. Ward raised the comments in his communication with Mr. Lambert, including the fact of Mr. Lambert's second relationship, the birth of TBS, and Mr. Lambert's children's fatal hereditary heart condition. Overleaf, please, to page 5. We can see there's a discussion by the group. In the minutes, MASB would be DAC Mark Simmons, I think, and PW Peter Ward. What is our duty of care around TBS? There's then some information redacted for privilege reasons. The Guardian could track him down and could publish before he gets to them. Ms. Simmons, in light of that, we don't have primary responsibility, but reputationally, should we do something? Mr. Ward, if we don't do anything and the child does die, then this looks poor. What has he done in the interim period? And then Mr. Ward, is there a conflict for me between the inquiry and welfare issues? And then down another 2 lines. It was agreed no. Do we need to establish another contact other than Pete? It was agreed no, but Lambert must disclose what he has done to contact the child. If we could turn now to another document. These are minutes of a meeting of Ops Soissons. And that's MPS 0749742. So here's another meeting, Mark Simmons chairing, some fairly senior attendees there. But again, you are not there, but Peter Ward is present. And Mr. Prunty as well, you've explained his connection to you. Turning to page 6, please. Discussion followed about Lambert's hereditary medical condition. Dr. Privacy has been approached to trace the child. There is no wider responsibility for the MPS in respect of this. It's a long course of documents to take you through, but I think it's important you see them. Do you recall anything about the discussions in Gold Group about the MPS's duties to inform the child TBS of HN10's true identity?
No.
Personally, do you recognise that the MPS had moral and legal moral duties towards TBS to inform him of HN10's true identity?
Well, that's a matter for the Gold Group, and I without being present, without all the material in front of me, I can't answer that question. So.
Given the human element of this situation, do you recognise that any duties to that these duties, the moral duties, must override concerns about the policy of neither confirm nor deny?
That's a matter for the Gold Group. These are very serious and very complex issues, and I cannot answer that today. And
they should certainly override concerns about the reputation of the Metropolitan Police Service.
I can't answer that. The reputation of the service comes a long way down after these issues, where we're talking about lives and people's welfare.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. So those are the questions I have prepared and proposed to ask. There is, of course, the Rule 10 process, which must now follow.
Yes.
That I have nothing other.
Do you have some questions?
There will be some re-examination.
Yes. Then I'll rise for 10 minutes, both to permit the transcribers to have a brief rest and also to enable the Rule 10 process to be gone through.
So I'm grateful. So I have one short topic I hope to to ask from the Rule 10 process. In relation to your meeting with the UCOs when you did your review, when you spoke to the UCOs, were their managers present?
I'm not sure, sorry.
If the managers, or DCI Dell or the DI, was in the room when you spoke to the officers, how is it that you could expect them to speak honestly about any difficulties they may have been having in their deployments?
That's a good question. I'm not sure they were there or not. I know that it was a free flow of information, exchange of conversation.
In particular, how could you assure yourself that they could speak freely about their psychological well-being?
Well, I was confident in the meeting. We had at least an hour, if not two, and I was confident that there was no inhibitions around what they were saying. But I can't confirm whether the managers were in the room or not.
But you don't remember excluding the managers purposefully?
No, I don't. No.
So they may have been there?
It's possible, yeah.
Would you accept that might have inhibited
it might
the
have done.
freedom of the free flow of information?
Yes.
So those are all the questions I propose to ask.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Walton, you were referred earlier to emails sent or forwarded to you by Peter Ward in October 2011.
Yes.
Is that right? In June 2011, you became head of counter-terror command at the Met, SA-15.
Yes.
Can you describe that role?
It's a wide-ranging role. I know that when I took over SA-15, the threat was substantial in terms of the terrorist threat, sir, and I also recall having probably 400 or so live covert operations, terrorist covert operations running when I took over, and we had the Olympic Games 9 months away, so there was a very broad remit. My command, it's a very big command, at the Counterterrorism Command, with a global remit, a national remit, and a London remit.
And what were your priorities at the time?
Well, my priorities predominantly is obviously the safety of London, and that is dealing with the serious terrorist threat we were facing at that time, and then preparing for the London Olympic Games 9 months on. And when I took over, we were certainly not prepared for the Olympic Games.
And how would you describe the command structure beneath you?
I had initially four detective chief superintendents, each with large commands. I had international liaison officers across the world, and we had officers and staff in, I think, over 28 different locations, London, national and international. Yeah.
And how did you manage to oversee the entirety of that command?
Through the top team, reliance obviously on delegation, but I was, confident around my top team, and that included Peter Ward actually. So you cannot run a command of that remit with that level of threat without delegation and trusting your staff, your senior staff.
So is it right to say there would have been serious issues that you would not have been cited on?
Yes, of course. And indeed, in terms of the oversight of 400 live operations, you also can't be in the detail on all of those. So you're trusting your senior investigating officers. I think I had 35 senior investigating officers investigating those 400 live operations.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any further questions.
May I return to the horny topic we discussed yesterday, the meeting on the 14th of August. As I've seen from documents and your own evidence this afternoon, you're not terribly reliable on dates. I think you accept that. The documents you filled in yourself contain erroneous
yes.
dates,
So,
and
yes.
the evidence that you gave about the dates when you'd attended the course, the master's degree course.
That's correct.
putting those things to one side, you've given me the dates when you believe that you were on the Stephen Lawrence review team and the dates when you went on to CO24, and I have no reason to doubt that they are approximately correct. But as we're talking about a matter of a week or two or a few days, that might matter. If at the meeting on the 14th of August 1998 you had been told something by HN81 that was of relevance to the Commissioner's response to the Macpherson inquiry, would you have reported it back to the review team?
Well, I would have reported it back to the senior officer, either and or Mr. Quick and Colin Black, yes.
Yeah. Are you certain that you did not report back anything from that meeting to either of them?
Yes, sir, yes.
You say that with a degree of
Well,
hesitation.
as best I can recall.
Yes.
This is 28 years ago.
Of course, I appreciate that. So what you can say is that as best as you can recall, you did not report back anything from that meeting to the review team or those running it.
Oh, I can be totally confident I didn't report anything back to the review team. My hesitation was whether I had a further conversation with Colin Black.
Yeah.
Because I know I had a couple of conversations with Colin Black at various times, and I've not been able to pin down when those were. I can be certain that there was absolutely no conversation around Lawrence review team, and particularly Mr. Quick. Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask you. Do either of you have any questions arising out of that?
So no, none for me.
Thank you for returning. Your evidence is now complete. I may say one thing to provide some reassurance to you. I've reread what Mr. Ellison said about the meeting on the 14th of August and his reason for preferring the document to your own recollection. You may be interested to know that Mr. Lambert has himself said that in a significant internal SDS document there were significant inaccuracies, and I may prove to have reason to think that in some of the distributed documents about the SDS of which he was the author, that there may be inaccuracies in them too. So you may be reassured that as far as I'm concerned, I am not going to start from the position that the document is more likely to be right than any oral evidence that I've heard.
Thank you, sir. I'm reassured.
And that concludes today's proceedings. We will resume on Monday at 10 with Sir David Vaness.
So yes.